Hello, everyone. This is Jay Dobbins, your host of the Marvel DC Universe Fan Club. We are now at episode 45, and today's topic, well, actually, it's going to be a review on War of the Planet of the Apes. So, spoiler alert, if you have not seen War of the Planet of the Apes, then I strongly suggest you not listen to this episode. You have been warned. So, the other night, I saw Planet War of the Planet of the Apes, and I must say it was pretty good. I think all of the like Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and of course War of the Planet of the Apes. Matter of fact, I think that trilogy was pretty good. Give it a 99%, of course. It wasn't perfect, but it was good. Good enough to buy on iTunes or maybe even on DVD, but most definitely iTunes. So, how do I start? You have, of course, Caesar, played by Andy Serkis, best known for his role as Schmeagol in the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies. He was Golem, or the was it Smeagol? That precious, that type of that guy. So, and also he's Claw, and he was Claw in Avengers: Age of Ultron, and he will reprise his role as Claw in Black Panther, which is a continuation of Captain America's Civil War, and of course the Avengers: Age of Ultron. So, but anyway, uh, yeah. So it all started off, as uh, dang, oh, okay, now I remember. It all started off with the soldiers looking for the location of the apes. They're pretty much hunting, of course. They eventually run across them and they attack first. And then later on, the apes attack back, killing off all but four of the soldiers. And of course, one of the apes, or pretty much an albino gorilla, can't remember his name, but he was one of Koba's, Koba was the main antagonist in the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which was the sequel to Rise of the Planet of the Apes. So yes, he was one of Koba's guys. So they were gonna kill him, but he eventually fled and escaped. And then, of course, the soldiers were spared by sending a message to the colonel, played by Woody Harrelson, of course. So later on, you know, um, Caesar's son arrives, of course. Being welcomed by his family, and of course, his little brother, second born of Caesar's, and his wife, of course. So they're talking about looking for a new home and a new beginning to start over. Um, but then, of course, the soldiers come back to their location. So then, of course, they come in and let's see. What happens is that uh, it is okay, sorry, yeah. What happens is that one of the one of the soldiers comes in, and of course, Caesar's son comes in and attacks. But then later on, the colonel shows up, played by Woody Harrelson, and has a drop on him, killing him, thinking that he's Caesar. So then some of the apes come in and start attacking the soldiers. So then Caesar searches for his family and runs across the colonel. Colonel turns back, looks at him with a surprising look, then looks in another direction. Caesar looks in the direction that he was looking at to see that Caesar's son and his wife were killed. And of course, Caesar's enraged and tries to go after the colonel. Well, he catches up to him, but then later on, by jumping on the rope that he was hanging on. So he cuts the rope, and then you know Caesar falls into the ocean. So that happens, and of course, Caesar's like, okay, I'm going after the colonel. So then several of his groups, including Maurice, which is the orangutan that does sign language, comes in, and other group, and I guess two more apes come in, and they decide, okay, we're going to go, they're going with him. We're going with you. You're not going alone. So he's like, this is not your war. This is mine. I'm going after him. So they later on find the traitor, which was the albino gorilla, which was one of Koba's guys that came in. So he came back to the colonel's base, only to find out they got information. And Caesar was enraged, of course. He told Caesar that if he told the colonel their exact location, that the colonel would spare his life. So then, he asked for mercy, but then Caesar informed him that, his son and his wife are dead because of the well, they called him the donkey, of course. The donkey is pretty much the traders, ape traders who were helping the humans. So they're like slaves, pretty much. They're trying to survive, so they decided to work with the humans. But anyway, so the donkey, pretty much, which is not an actual donkey, this is another word for slave ape. So of course, when Caesar found out that he's the one that gave their ape's location in order for the colonel to spare his life, Caesar killed him, of course, not the colonel, but the traitor, one of Koba's guys. So they followed as the soldiers were leaving the base. Of course. Oh, by the way, Caesar's second son was survived. So he ended up putting her in the care of one of his people to go to the other place to start over, north or whatever. But yeah, anyway. So when the soldiers were leaving the base, Caesar and some of his groups followed them. They ran across a farm which was run by a deserter. The deserter was picking up wood, saw the apes. He put it down slowly. He put the wood slowly and drew his weapon, and Caesar saved the apes' lives, of course. So then they come in and raid the farm, only to find a mute girl, a girl who really can't talk. I'll explain why later. So when they decided, okay, they can't leave her. We gotta take her with. So Maurice talked Caesar into taking her with them. So, later on they found that not only as they continued their journey on following the soldiers, they run across another ape dressed like a human. So he was pretty much he offered Caesar asked him to take them to where he was held or whatever, because he was the last of his group, because the colonel killed him. Killed his group. So as they continue on their journey, Caesar, of course, is captured by one of the soldiers that he spared earlier. So of course he met the colonel, and the colonel was like, "Ah, you're Caesar." So he's like, if I didn't kill you, then who did I kill? So then he's like, oh, my son and my wife. And he's like, oh, okay. He's like, oh, I did it for the greater good. Then he revealed later on that he killed other people in his group, including his own son. The colonel's son, of course, killed his own son because the virus was infecting, um, those who survived the virus were later on, they were infected by the virus. Turns out they lost their ability to speak. So I was wondering, like, how the heck did that happen? So, but but later on, they cap the colonel captured his group, separated the adult apes and the kids apes. So that included Caesar's younger son. So they were, using them as slaves to build the wall or whatever. And one of the ape slaves, uh, was beating him and stuff and beating Caesar and stuff like that, whipping the other people to get to work. So, uh, he later on asked the colonel for food and water for so they can, get their strength to work. So then, Caesar later on, uh, you know, got food and water. And then the mute girl came in and gave Caesar, the mute girl came in, I guess she just found her way in the base. And then one of them, she was almost captured by the soldiers. And then one of the apes that was with Caesar earlier, he found his way in, saved her, and got himself captured. So they were able to speak sign language and escape eventually. And then it turns out there were other humans that were going to war. There were humans that were going to war with the colonel. So they showed up later on and started shooting missiles and stuff like that. So, they had their own little war deal. But before that happened, this was after the apes later on escaped. Caesar was left behind to kill the colonel, but the colonel was drunk. While they were being attacked by other groups of humans, of soldiers. The colonel was uh, in his little room or whatever, drunk. Uh, so Caesar grabs his gun and points it at the colonel's head. Colonel wants him to shoot him, but Caesar, is like, no, he's not going to do that because he didn't want to wind up like Koba. Koba, in previous uh, Planet of the Apes films, he never escaped his hate that he had towards the humans. And Koba did make an appearance in this film, but as a flashback, or well, not a flashback, but an hallucination. So he had hallucinations of Koba. So Koba's death did haunt Caesar pretty much. But yeah, so he decided not to kill the colonel, of course, because he didn't want to be like Koba, and turns out he was different from Koba. So he just set the gun down, and the colonel shot himself because he couldn't talk, pretty much. And then the little girl, was learning sign language with the apes, and she's like, "Am I 8 too?" And then Maurice was like, "Yes, you're 8." And then he's like, "You're Nova." And then I just remember, wait a minute, Nova. But it turns out Nova was a character in one of the 1970s Planet of the Apes films, and but that was an adult version of her. So she wasn't, she was an adult and she couldn't speak. So that explains this character in this film. Later on, Maurice called her Nova, because she didn't have no name. She couldn't say her name, she couldn't speak. So, but yeah. So that was, so Maurice named her Nova, which was a character in the 1970s Planet of the Apes film. So I was wondering, I'm like, wait a minute. That explained, in the 1970s Planet of the Apes film, Nova never spoke a word. Her character never spoke a word, no lines, nothing. So, of course, Charlton Heston was pretty much in that movie, and he was the only human that could actually speak in the film. So, Yeah, all this was pretty much was a prequel to the 1970s Planet of the Apes films, which is pretty much what I realized. But yes. So later on, of course, you know, the apes win, of course, and then they blow up uh the little base. Caesar blew up the base, uh, the colonel's base, killing everyone, including the one that he spared in the first film. He shot him with the arrow, and then before that guy finished him off, one of the apes used a grenade launcher, blew him to bits. So saving Caesar's life, sacrificing himself, and then one human executed him. So, but then, but that was before Caesar blew up, threw a grenade on one of the gas tanks, blew up the whole base. But Caesar escaped, barely. So, but that caused an avalanche pretty much, burying pretty much the other soldiers alive. So, but the apes survived. They were pretty much on top of the trees avoiding the avalanche. So, they took a long journey, um, and they make a stopping point. They're like, okay, we did it, we made it. Caesar's wounded, and he later on dies in the end. So I felt very emotional about that because Caesar was a leader. He got the apes so far, and he was the first of his kind. So, but yeah. So I give it a 99.10 and a 99 out of 100. So, and of course, uh, 4.9 stars. So, out of 5 stars. But yeah, cinematography was excellent. The landscape was excellent. The drawings were excellent. Um, the script was good. The dialogue. Um, yeah, I like how everything was written. I like the story. So, which was a clear explanation to the um, 1970s Planet of the Apes film. So, but but yeah, it was like I said, it was very good. It's something out. It is a movie I would see, a second time. Um, like I said, it was very good. Extremely good. Everything, cinematography, everything. Yeah, who knows? It might win an Oscar, maybe. But in my opinion, I thought it was good. So if the movie critics are giving negative reviews about it, then don't bother listening to them because your opinion is what counts. So, but you know, they did good. I'm not sure if they're going to do a fourth film, but who knows? So, but yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Um, oh, feel free to visit us and like us on Facebook. We are available on iTunes and, of course, the Google Play Music app.